Hello everybody and welcome back to Mechabellum. I wanted to show you another game highlight that I thought was pretty fun. I ended up going with the Rhino Specialist here. My opponent is a Giant Specialist. I've been really liking the Rhino Specialist in the meta currently. The HP is a little low for what you get. It is possible to be in the danger zone by the time that happens. So the way that I'm thinking about this game is just, you know, how much can I hold? How much can I make sure that I am safe and not take as much damage as possible until my Rhino comes out? I have a pretty good setup here with 2 units of the same speed. I have crawlers and steel balls with some arc lights versus tanks and just a whole bunch of crawlers. So gonna rely on these arc lights quite a bit, but I'm very happy that I picked them up. I love getting a couple of arc lights early. They just deal with chaff so well, and if you need to, you can go into the arc light build. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not exactly the strongest build in the meta right now. What I mean by arc light build is this is pretty much what you're looking for: electromagnetic shot, charge shot, elite marksman, and range enhancement. You might choose to forego the electromagnetic shot for the ability to shoot up. I don't know what it's called, but you know, if you can shoot the air with your arc lights, it's pretty good. I choose not to because you can just easily get some Mustang, and Mustang deal with aerial units much better than arc lights because they're a multiple entity unit. They can split up, they can do lots of things. Both of us choose to skip here. I grab a couple of Mustang. They're just great to have. They pair really well with the steel balls. And I figured, you know, if there is going to be some shenanigans, i.e. I didn't have anything that could really fire up, Mustang are the way to go. Also, with my Rhino coming in, it's great to have something that can deal with Phoenix. One of the best ways to deal with Rhinos are Phoenix and Hackers. So I figured, you know what, I'll just get something to deal a little bit more wave clear because I don't really have that many arc lights, and I need something to protect my steel balls a little bit because I need them to actually deal with these tanks. I don't have any single point damage until that Rhino shows up. In this case, it didn't really work out super great. My steel balls all died. I'm going to need some more steel balls if I want to be able to crack these tanks in an easy manner. But now at least I have some Mustang to get in there and deal a little bit of damage. And hey, these guys, hold on, let's let them pull up here in a second. Those Mustang actually performed really well. Here comes my Rhino. He grabs intensive training. I grab intensive training because a level 3 Rhino, that's a lot. Level 3 sledgehammer as well, but this Rhino should still one-shot them. 9,000. Yeah, it just kills them. And I grab a couple more Mustang just so that if I can deal with those chaff units early. My plan is to force my way through the center with these units. Especially as I continue to level up these crawlers. One thing that you shouldn't do, which I kind of tend to do a little bit too often, is leveling your crawlers is very important. Crawlers actually have a substantial amount of HP for a unit with so many entities, which means that things like Fang and sledgehammers, of course, obviously not level 1 or level 2, level 3 sledgehammers, but level 1 sledgehammers really struggle against upgraded crawlers. Same with Mustang. You know, you're really using them to pull away those shots. So here comes my big bag of Rhino. This missile here is absolutely devastating. Great play by my opponent. It's just going to wipe out this entire flank. Very, very good on his part, but there's nothing really here that can deal with this Rhino. All I need to do is keep one unit of Mustang alive. That way I can kill off these whatever they're called, these Phoenix, and I should be good to go. The Phoenix are barely scratching the Rhino. It's just so powerful to be able to quickly rank up something like that. Of course, these level 3 sledgehammers are very good, but they do suffer from what I like to call crawler threat, is that if there's a unit that can get real close to them, they just die. They'll always aggro on the thing that's closest to them, whether or not that's worthwhile. All units do that, but because tanks have such a long reload time, they really suffer. It's not so bad if your Fang are aggroed on the wrong thing because they shoot so quickly. Same with your Mustang. They shoot so quickly. If you can get rid of it, you're good to go. He skips. I think I pick up the text back here. Oh, no. What? I think that was... Oh, that's right. He's a giant specialist. So yeah, I do end up picking up the giant hunter because I'm like, almost certainly going to have giants. And a couple more steel balls just so that I can get through those tanks a little bit easier. I didn't realize he'd go into the melting point. I probably should have. Just because melting points are great, especially against this rhino. Doing a little bit of upgrading here. If I can get these Mustang to the point at which they're just chewing through these things like these crawlers, I'm going to be in a much better spot. You know, strangely enough, steel balls deal with melting points fairly well. I won't say that they're great at it, but they actually deal with it fairly well. Just because they're multiple entities, the melting point tends to shoot, or the melting point obviously can't shoot at all of them at once. So they're able to get in there and deal the damage that they need to do. Mustangs holding up fairly well here. This guy's up to 50, 55, 49, 100 kills. They're doing good. They're wiping out chaff, which is exactly what I need them to do. And they deal with tanks not absurdly well, but well enough. My next step is probably to give replicate to these steel balls, just because that would be exceedingly good. My wasted giant specialist or giant hunter. I was thinking he was going to go with Fortress, if I'm honest with you. Fortress would have paired with his build a little bit better, in my opinion, as opposed to a melting point. I was so close to killing that thing. I was kind of annoyed. It's like, oh man, I wanted to make my money back at least, but no, not to be. Either of these would have been incredible for me. Same with the subsidized Mustang. I think I go with the incendiary just because I could use it to clear away a large swath of units, or make this melting point a lot less effective. If it has to get too close to my steel balls, then I'm in a good spot. I still have a ton of cash. I recycle my rhino. Don't need it anymore. I'd rather this thing... I mean, if I could have it on this flank, I'd move it to this flank, but well, who cares, right? Like, there's nothing really here that it would be good against. Maybe the tanks, if it could make contact with them, but I'm not overly worried about it. I'm very surprised that my opponent chose to skip. Their cards, or skills as they're called, are exceedingly strong. Like, they're some of the best things in the game. I would highly recommend that you pick up good skills like this, because remember, there's only 5 to 10 rounds. I don't know why I did this. Is that mine? No, that's his. Okay. I was about to say, I'm not sure why I did, if that was mine. That was foolish of me. Lots of shields. And finally, the upgrade on my Mustang and steel balls. I'm rolling with a fairly slim army in this case, which works a little bit better from what I found against giants, just because you want to make sure that your units can actually make contact with the giant and deal enough damage to get rid of the giant. The reason I use this fire here is because I need my steel balls to make contact with these tanks, and I need to clear away chaff. That way my guys can get in there and be annoying. Keep the melting point shooting at the wrong thing. I still don't really have anything to deal with it besides steel balls, which this guy is just doing a hero's job. Gee Louie, fantastic. There's my 50 bucks. Only have to do that 2 more times to break even. But once again, you know, Mustang, pretty darn good. They will slowly chip away at a tank, especially if they have longer range than it. So not a great win, but a little win. At this point, I've kind of realized that I don't have very many units, so something like Stormcallers would do an exceedingly good job against me, so I'm a little nervous about that. I think we both pick up the Senior Defense Specialist, at least I did. I'd be surprised if he didn't. This is one of the best cards if you're a Giant Specialist, just because it gives you so much extra HP. If you do this with a couple of War Factories or... heck, 2 or 3 fortresses, even the melting points have a ton of HP. It's definitely worthwhile. I grabbed some level 2 marksmen here. These tanks are becoming a little bit of a nuisance, and I figured having a couple of these guys just to plink away can be very useful. I don't really need to worry about... He actually grabbed the advanced fire control system and put it on these level 4 sledgehammers. They're basically shooting like a sniper at this point. Yeah, that's pretty good. 5 snipers that shoot fairly rapidly at 3 seconds. That's pretty darn good. It's a very expensive investment in order to make that happen, but, you know, it is what it is. He ends up grabbing some Phoenix. An interesting decision given the amount of Mustang I have on the field, but his main problem is taking care of these steel balls. So I understand why he did it. Fang really could use a tiny bit of support. They're making contact and dying before any of my units, or before any of his units are able to deal with it, or at least threaten my units, so they're kind of falling for no reason. So that's something that I really try and look for a lot when I'm playing, is if I have my Fang too far up and they're just dying for no reason, then I'll either recycle them and move them backwards, or kind of change their positioning a bit, just because there's no reason for them to die. At that point, they are just feeding XP. It does cause my steel balls to go in a little bit ahead of the rest of my units, but that's okay. I'm really just using them as health. That way my Mustangs can deal the damage. The longer the battle goes on, the happier I am, because my Mustang are just blinking away. Amp Core, I think I go with the Javelin. Even though I know this guy is going to live, I'm still making contact with it. So if I can bring it down, there's the Stormcallers I was afraid of. But if I can bring it down to less HP, then I'm in a much better spot. So I figured if I take out half of its HP, I'm in a good job. Grab some snipers, give them range, just so that way they can plink away at tanks and now these Phoenix. I was very happy that I unlocked those last turn. You just got to slow down sometimes and think about what it is that you're doing. I tend to fall into the trap of playing way too quickly. Like I have a plan in my head. I will set that plan out within like 10 seconds, and I don't even realize, like, oh crap, he actually had stuff in my backline. Whoops. Mustang doing a great job, just able to keep cleaning away all of this chaff, no issue. It's earning them a lot of XP. So again, if I were my opponent, I'd look at possibly moving some of that chaff back, because now I'm getting more and more longer ranged units. And if all of that chaff dies well and truly before any of his medium ranged units are making contact, then he's kind of in a bad spot. Both my snipers are shooting at these super heavy tanks, which is good, but if they'd taken out these Phoenix, I would have been in a little bit better of a spot. Doesn't matter. I get my 50 bucks. That's all that mattered to me. I will end up losing this round because these guys are incredibly good against my army. Stormcaller's kind of a slept-on thing, and unfortunately this sniper just decides to chill in his little house, which means I'll lose this shield as well. That was frustrating. That's one of those times where I wish I could just move my unit and be like, go die somewhere else, you know? I'd rather have the shield than 100 extra health. So we're both in the danger zone now. My opponent's done a very good job at bringing this back. I end up grabbing the smoke bomb just because if I can cut down on a lot of this incoming damage, especially from the Stormcallers, I'm going to be in a good spot. He grabs the Junior Manufacturing Specialist, so I think I have more than enough time to talk about this. I don't rate economy cards after round 5 nearly as highly as I do prior to round 5. So decreasing all of these units by 50 bucks, there's one, maybe 2 more rounds, that's $100 savings, $200 maybe, or $150 in this case. He's still losing money on that card. So definitely not worth it in my opinion. I grab a couple of Fang here just to be meat shields for these missiles. I also grabbed a whole bunch of missile defense because, once again, I don't have that many units on the field, and Stormcallers will absolutely wreck me. I think, okay, this is probably the last round of the game. I should use up as much cash as I can. I don't even have these enhancements. My opponent does, and that's an issue because I'm playing very small elite army. Probably would have been better for me to grab those. At this point, I don't want to say it's too late, but I should have been thinking about it. I'm also nervous about smoke. Smoke is incredibly good, especially because it lasts 2 rounds. Having those last 2 rounds is very, very good. I finally took my time to wait here, and I think I recycled some crawlers that I didn't need anymore. Gave all my units range. The range is actually very important for the steel balls. I probably should have given them range ahead of time, just so that way they could have made contact a little bit earlier. If they'd been melting down these guys, it probably would have been more useful, but it is what it is. The anti-missiles are doing a great job, just really plinking away there, keeping my guys up and healthy. The crawlers are doing a great job, just continuing to be annoying. My snipers are leveling up at a good pace, you know, at a pace enough that they're kind of one-shotting these tanks now, or at least the weaker tanks. but it's not looking great for me. And I think I'm going to die here just because this melting point is very strong. It's got a lot of HP, and I'm really nervous, but luckily these marksmen have extra range, so they're able to outrange the Stormcallers and deal with it. I did lose my missile, whatever these things are called, missile interceptor, the little turret that shoots up. But for $100, it saved me from dying, so I'll take that. The way that I'm looking at it is every time I kill the melting point, it's worth either a missile or some deployable. So I'm not really hurting myself from spending on my deployables too much. Level up all of my snipers. I need these guys just really dealing damage to these units, as well as I'm thinking about leveling up these steel balls, just keep them in the fight that little bit longer. These tanks could have been a massive threat. If he had grabbed the armor enhancement, I think he honestly would have won this game. No spoilers, of course, but at last round, if he had that armor enhancement, a lot of my damage is coming from these Mustang. I do, of course, have some snipers, but the snipers have a lot to shoot out. I don't have nearly enough snipers to deal with that. So I was very surprised he didn't grab it. I was hoping that he would not. This honestly probably would have ruined me, or the enhanced range, just because there are so many high-level tanks. The higher rank your units are, and the more of them you have, the better it is to upgrade them, of course. So, heck, I was kind of flabbergasted. I did end up grabbing the aerial specialist on these Mustang as well, just because I was getting a little bit nervous about the amount of Phoenixes that have been showing up on the field. They just seem to be growing more and more. I put the photon emission over on this side, and I actually saved my intensive training just because I was out of cash. I didn't want to pop it on a unit and then use it next turn. I figured if, let's say, these guys get to level 3, I could upgrade them to level 5 next turn. We now have tanks coming in as well. There's my fire just to get rid of this stuff. My opponent isn't really using too many deployables, which is good and bad. You know, it's money lost, but now that I've gotten to use those whatever it is, that fire twice just to decimate this left-hand side, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it. Steel balls are working away on the melting point. Snipers are going to start working away on them too. This is looking pretty good for me, and these ranked up snipers are able to deal with these tanks without much of a problem. And of course, these level 3 Mustang just deal with aerial units so well. Really have to give it to the old air units. They're pretty good. I don't know if I'll win here, though. A lot of my units are dying in the flames of my own ambition. Yep, that's that. GG. So let's do our little post-battle discussion. Obviously, the armor enhancement would have been phenomenal, or the field maintenance. At this point, maybe field maintenance would have been better, just because these guys have so much HP, especially the ones with the amp core. That may have made it a little bit more worth it, because it may have cost me extra shots. It definitely would have stymied my Mustang. Kind of debatable. But if he'd had both of those unlocked on his sledgehammers, I honestly don't think I could have stopped them. Just because there is enough Phoenix here to get through my steel balls. And I don't really have enough chaff to keep these sledgehammers occupied. And he has pretty good chaff clear. I'm surprised he didn't lean into more giants. This melting point really did hold down this left flank quite a bit. I think either if he had gone with super heavy sledgehammers or some level 2 fortresses with shields, I didn't really have a great way with dealing with shields. Granted, my units are pretty high level, so they would have torn through shields fairly fast anyways, but I don't have any Stormcallers, which is the main answer to shields. So I think that would have worked out fairly well. In my case, I was thinking about transitioning to Wasps. I was really glad that I did not, just because he did end up placing down a couple of Mustang. I think he was anticipating that transition, so really good idea on him. I was kind of playing very unorthodox by having such a small army. But if I'd been able to put like 3 units of Wasps across the back line with shields, that really would have stymied these Phoenix. I could even have had them kind of ride in with my steel balls, just because these little Fang were really the only anti-air minus the melting point for a long time. Yes, Phoenix can be anti-air, but really they're only good at shooting down overlords or other Phoenix. They do suffer against wasps quite a bit. So if I'd gotten some wasps with either the anti-air upgrade or the anti-ground upgrade, or even shields would have been pretty good here. Yeah, wasps with shields probably would have been a transition I could have made. I just chose not to. Another thing that may have been worthwhile, at least for me, I wasn't having any trouble clearing away the chaff, but I could have started down the arc light upgrade tree. It just didn't really seem worth it at this point. So, yeah. Tell me your thoughts, tell me your reactions, and I will see you in the future. Goodbye.